Okay, let's unpack this. Think about your mail for a second. Not email, I mean the actual physical stuff. Paper envelopes, packages. What happens to all that when you're not actually there to get it? Maybe you're living overseas now, or you're one of those digital nomads traveling all over.
Or even just traveling a ton for work, right? Or maybe you're running a business from home and you kind of need an address that isn't, well, your house.
Exactly. Seeing those piles just building up, or that little worry in the back of your mind, did I miss a bill? Some important notice?
Yeah, it's a hassle dealing with paper mail when you're miles away, maybe even in a totally different country. It's a surprisingly sticky problem, even now.
And it's more than just annoying, isn't it? For some people, it's actually a pretty big deal.
Oh, definitely. Think about American expats or maybe international students here. They often need a valid U.S. address for, banking, taxes, student loans, visas sometimes. But they're living abroad. How do they manage that critical mail? And then you've got your frequent travelers, right, jumping between places. How do you keep track of things that might need a signature or have sensitive info inside?
Or small business owners. They might work from home, but using your home address for your business, it doesn't always look professional, and privacy is a concern too.
For sure. And even just renters, worried about mail getting swiped from a shared lobby, or maybe issues with noisy neighbors, or separating mail after a breakup. It happens.
Yeah.
So the core need really is for a reliable, secure way to get your physical mail, even when you're not physically there to pick it up.
Right. So for this deep dive, we looked at some sources that explore the modern ways people are solving this. We're going beyond, the old school post office box. We're focusing on private mailbox rentals, and this is the key part, the digital mail management services that often come with them.
Yeah, the sources really lay out this modern approach, and they even highlight a specific provider based in Massachusetts that offers exactly these kinds of services.
Okay, so maybe let's start with the problems with the traditional ways. Why don't they always cut it anymore?
Well, one thing the sources bring up is what they call the P.O. box stigma. Historically, sometimes a P.O. box address could feel a bit temporary, or maybe less professional than a regular street address.
Right. It doesn't always give off the vibe you want, especially for a business.
Exactly. And then there are the practical headaches. Like the biggest one is just having to go there physically.
Yeah, the constant trips. If you're traveling constantly or living on another continent, that's just not feasible.
Impossible, really. So your mail just sits there. You have no idea what's arrived.
And didn't the sources mention something about packages, too?
Yes, that's a huge one. Traditional P.O. boxes. They often can accept packages from carriers like FedEx or UPS or DHL. They usually only take USPS.
Oh, okay. So if you run a business getting client shipments or you just shop online a lot while you're away,
you're stuck. You need a real street address for those deliveries. Otherwise, you're asking friends or family to accept stuff for you, which is inconvenient for everyone.
And then there's just the sheer amount of mail. It's kind of wild how much paper still shows up.
Oh, it is. One source had this slightly terrifying stat. The average U.S. household gets something like 454 pieces of junk mail a year.
Wow.
Per year.
Yeah. That's like, almost 9 pieces every single week? Just junk.
So imagine that piling up for months while you're gone. Forget the important stuff for a second, just dealing with that mountain of junk.
Right, so you take that volume, plus the delivery limitations, plus the need to physically go there.
Yeah.
It really highlights the problem for all those people we talked about.
Yeah.
How does the expat make sure they get that crucial tax document buried in the pile? How does the business owner get all their packages without using their home address?
How does the digital nomad stay, nomadic if they're chained to checking a physical box?
Exactly. The old ways just don't offer the control or the security or the flexibility that people really need now. Okay, so that brings us to the modern alternative the sources talk about. Renting a mailbox, but from a private company, not the post office.
Yes, and the absolute key difference, the thing the sources really stress, is that these services give you a genuine physical street address.
Not a P.O. box number.
No, like 1215 Main Saint, Suite 456, something like that. And the sources explain why this is so important. First, it just looks more professional, more legit, crucial for businesses. And second, as we were just saying, that real street address means they can accept packages from everyone. USPS, FedEx, UPS, DHL. The sources specifically list them. That's a game changer.
Okay, that makes sense. And what about the actual mailboxes themselves?
The sources mentioned they're built with security as a priority. Durable materials, good locks, designed to hold not just letters, but bigger envelopes, even small parcels sometimes. Things that might not fit in a tiny P.O. box.
So the physical side is solid, secure collection point.
Exactly. That's the foundation. But then the sources are really clear. The real power, the thing that makes this truly modern, is the digital side.
Right. This is where it gets really interesting for someone who's, never there.
This is the leap. Your mail arrives at that secure street address, and then you manage it all online, remotely.
Okay, how does that actually work?
So the service highlighted in the sources, getmyusmail.com, they offer a whole suite of these digital tools. It starts with digital mail scanning.
Okay.
When your mail comes in, their staff, following strict privacy rules, the sources note will open it, scan the contents, and upload those images to a secure online portal you can log into from anywhere.
So instead of waiting weeks or months maybe to see what's in your box,
Yeah,
you just log in online and see scans. Pretty much right after it arrives.
that's the idea. It's a massive shift in just knowing what's going on. You see instantly if it's a bill, a legal notice, whatever.
Wow.
And then building on that, they offer what they call a scan and email service.
Yeah.
If you see a scan of an envelope in your portal that looks important, you can ask them to scan the entire contents of that letter and securely email it straight to you. Think about being overseas and needing to see a time-sensitive document now.
Okay, that's huge. No more asking your cousin to open your bank statement or waiting ages for it to be forwarded just to find out it was junk anyway.
Exactly. You keep control, you keep privacy, you see the outside of every piece, you decide what gets opened and scanned.
Makes sense. But what if you actually need the physical item, like an original document or a new credit card?
Good question. That's where physical mail forwarding comes in. The sources explain they can bundle up your mail and packages and forward them to literally any address you want, anywhere in the world.
And you control when they send it.
Totally. You set the schedule daily, weekly, monthly, maybe just when you ask for it. Huge flexibility there, whether you move around a lot or just want things sent periodically.
That forwarding sounds especially good for packages. Did the sources mention anything about combining packages? Consolidation.
They did, yeah. And that's a big cost saver, especially for international folks or people getting lots of items. The service can hold on to several packages for you as they arrive.
Okay.
And then pack them all together into one larger box before shipping internationally. The sources point out this saves significantly on shipping costs compared to sending each little thing separately. Less hassle, less money.
Nice. Okay, and what about all that junk mail we talked about? We're sent to the stuff you've seen online but don't need the paper copy of?
For that, the sources describe a secure shredding service. Once you've seen the scan, or if you just recognize it as junk from the envelope scan in your portal, you can tell them to securely destroy the physical copy.
Adds privacy and cuts down clutter without you ever touching it.
Precisely.
Okay, let's connect this back to the people we mentioned earlier because this is where you see how it really helps, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So imagine you're that American living in, say, France. Instead of worrying about missing a bank statement sent to your old U.S. address or a crucial IRS notice, you get an email alert, you log into your portal, boom, there's the scan of the envelope. You ask for the full scan, and maybe a few hours later, you've got the PDF securely in your inbox. You know immediately what's up with your U.S. stuff.
That's peace of mind right there.
Totally. Or think about the small business owner. Maybe they work from a co-working space, maybe from home. They use this service's street address, like that 1215 Main Stand example, as their official business address.
That's professional.
Exactly. All their client mail, supplier packages from FedEx, UPS, whatever, it all goes to this secure, professional spot. They check scans online, forward important docs home when needed, and their home address stays completely private.
That makes a huge difference for credibility and, privacy.
And the digital nomad. Hopping between countries. Their physical mail isn't this anchor dragging them down anymore. They could be in Thailand, see a scan of a bill from back in Massachusetts, pay it online, tell the service to shred the paper. They order something online, it ships to their U.S. mailbox. When they land somewhere for a while, they request a consolidated shipment of everything that's piled up.
It really enables that location independence, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You mentioned that stat from the sources, over 4.8 million Americans identifying as digital nomads back in 2022. This kind of service seems almost essential for them.
It really does. And even for the renter worried about mail theft or maybe dealing with the tricky ex-spouse situation, having a secure, private, off-site address Just eliminates those headaches.
So looking specifically at the service the source is focused on, getmyusmail.com, how do they sort of summarize their advantages over a plain old P.O. box?
Well, they really hit those key points we've discussed. Number one, the real street address. That's fundamental for looking professional and getting all your packages. They explicitly state they accept packages from all carriers: FedEx, UPS, DHL, USPS. Big difference. They also talk about enhanced security at their facility, things like surveillance, limited public access, probably more secure than your average apartment lobby mailbox.
Okay.
And then they list all those extra services: the scanning, forwarding, consolidation, shredding, even packing and shipping assistance. It's way beyond just holding mail.
And the sources gave that example address: 1215 Main St. Tewksbury, MA01876. Looks just like a regular business address.
Exactly, which is the whole point.
What about cost? Does it break the bank?
The sources give some detail there. They say rates start from $35 a month, which seems pretty reasonable for the baseline service.
Okay, starting for $35.
Yeah, and they mention different tiers. They have names like beginner, advanced, master, even one called insane.
Yeah, insane. Okay.
Right. And basically, as you go up the tiers, you get more included services, like more scans per month, longer storage time for your physical mail, and packages before forwarding, maybe extra features like a dedicated fax line or registered agent service, which businesses might need.
So it scales up depending on what you need. An individual traveler might be fine with the beginner, but a business might need masters or insane.
Seems like it. It shows it's designed to fit different kinds of users.
Okay, so if this sounds like the answer someone's been looking for, the expat, the traveler, the business owner, how do they actually sign up? What do the sources say?
Pretty straightforward, according to the material. You can apply right online through their website, getmyusmail.com.
Makes sense.
Or, if you have questions first, they provide contact info, a phone number 978-851-0199, and a couple of email addresses, info@getmyusmail.com and service@getmyusmail.com. Seems like they make it easy to get started.
Gotcha. So really bringing this all together, what our deep dive into these sources shows is kind of a revolution in managing physical mail, right?
I think so, yeah. You use these private mailbox services with a real street address. You add on these powerful digital tools: scanning, viewing online, forwarding when you want, consolidation, shredding.
And suddenly you've got this smooth, secure, incredibly flexible system for handling your U.S. mail and packages, no matter where you are in the world.
It really seems tailor-made for how a lot of people live and work now. Expats, students abroad, remote workers, frequent travelers, small businesses needing that professional edge and privacy.
Or just anyone tired of mail hassles at home, really.
Yeah.
Anyone needing reliability and security that's not tied to where they physically sleep at night.
Exactly.
So, final thought then. In a world that's just getting more mobile, where remote work is sticking around, where privacy and efficiency matter so much, maybe managing your physical mail doesn't have to be this outdated chore anymore. It doesn't have to hold you back. Could a service like this, giving you that stable U.S. address, but letting you manage everything digitally, could that be the missing piece for you to gain even more freedom, more efficiency? Something to think about.